Have you ever found yourself, wondering if maybe beneath all the different spiritual paths humanity has explored, there might be some kind of secret unifying truth?
Hmm.
Or perhaps if the very cutting edge of modern science might, in some really surprising ways, actually echo ancient wisdom?
That's a fantastic question to start with. It's a really mind-bending thought, isn't it?
It really is, because I think for many of us, science and spirituality, they're often seen as totally separate, maybe even opposing realms.
Right. Or at least non-overlapping.
Exactly. But what if they're not?
And that's really where our deep dive today kicks off. We tend to put things in boxes, don't we? We compartmentalize knowledge. Science goes here, philosophy over there.
Spirituality way off somewhere else.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But what if the deepest insights, the really fundamental understandings about reality from these fields that seem so separate,
Mm.
what if they're actually converging, pointing towards something, well, singular and profound?
Yeah.
That's the really intriguing question we're exploring today.
I find that incredibly compelling. So today we are embarking on a deep dive into some frankly profound source material. We've got excerpts from a text called The Unifying Ground, Mysticism and Quantum Reality.
Mhm.
And our mission really for you listening is to explore how these ideas that seem so distinct, ancient mystical traditions going back millennia, and then the absolute latest in theoretical physics, how they might actually be pointing towards a similar fundamental reality.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
We're going to unpack this concept called the Perennial Philosophy, and you'll see how it sort of resonates across huge stretches of time and different disciplines. But importantly, without getting you bogged down in like overwhelming jargon or detail.
Right. We want to make it accessible.
Exactly. We want to illuminate these complex ideas in a way that feels not just clear, but genuinely exciting.
Think of it as peeling back layers, maybe. Discovering these underlying patterns that just keep showing up again and again across different ways of thinking, different human quests for knowledge. You might find yourself rethinking some pretty fundamental assumptions about, well, the universe and your place in it.
Oh, I certainly did. So we'll start our journey with the philosopher Aldous Huxley, brilliant thinker,
Mm-hmm.
and his groundbreaking idea, this concept that really laid the foundation for exploring these kinds of convergences.
Okay.
Then we'll travel through the really rich symbolic landscapes of Kabbalah, the mystical heart of Judaism.
Deep tradition there.
Absolutely. And Christian mysticism, too, often seen through the sometimes radical insights of figures like Meister Eckhart.
Yeah, Eckhart's fascinating.
And then finally, we make this leap that feels, well, pretty surprising, into the world of quantum field theory.
Right. The physics connection.
Yeah, where the language of modern science starts describing a reality that feels, well, uncannily similar to what ancient mystics seemed to intuit centuries ago. So, yeah, get ready for some genuine aha moments, I think.
Sounds like quite a journey. Let's
Yeah.
dive in.
Okay, so let's unpack this foundational idea first, the sort of bedrock concept that lets us even begin to connect such diverse fields. Our journey starts with Aldous Huxley,
Right.
a name many might recognize, maybe from Brave New World.
Sure. The famous novel.
But back in 1945, Huxley published this really seminal work called The Perennial Philosophy. And in it, he introduced a concept that has, I think, truly shaped how many people think about the intersection of different spiritual paths.
Okay.
Now, the big idea here, and it's really important to grasp this right from the start, Huxley wasn't trying to invent some new religion
No.
or even saying, oh, all religions are basically the same, let's just mush them together. Not that at all.
That's a really crucial distinction to make clear. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What Huxley was doing, as our source material lays out, was identifying what he called a highest common factor.
A highest common factor.
Yeah. Imagine like a huge, intricate tapestry. It's woven with countless different threads, colors, patterns, right?
Mhm.
Each one representing a unique spiritual tradition. Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Sufism, Christian mysticism, you name it.
Okay, I can picture that.
On the surface, they look incredibly diverse. They've got their own specific dogmas, unique rituals, very distinct cultural stories and histories.
Totally different, yeah.
But Huxley argued, if you look really closely, if you step back and see the deepest underlying structure, there's a universal, timeless metaphysic,
Mm.
a shared understanding of ultimate reality that runs through all of them.
Ah, okay.
Like a common sort of hidden esoteric core. It's always there,
Yeah.
but often kind of obscured by the outer forms, the specific cultural expressions.
That's a great analogy. So it's like finding the fundamental architectural blueprint, maybe, that underlies all these different building styles.
Exactly.
You might have a Gothic cathedral, a Buddhist temple, a mosque. They look wildly different on the outside, different histories, specific practices.
Really different aesthetics, yeah.
But if you strip away the ornamentation, maybe the core principles of creating sacred space, or that human urge to connect with something bigger, that might be shockingly similar.
Precisely. That's the essence of the perennial philosophy. It's about what's always been true, universally across time and across cultures. It's perennial.
Right. Perennial, like a plant that comes back year after year.
Exactly. And the core claim of this philosophy is truly profound. It says that at the very root of all existence, both the physical world we see and touch, and also the inner world of our own consciousness, there is a single ultimate reality.
Okay, a single reality.
This is what Huxley called the divine ground of being.
The divine ground of being.
Yeah. And he used various names for it, drawing from different traditions to show its universal recognition. Sometimes it's called the Godhead, or Brahman in Hinduism, the absolute, or simply the ground of being.
So not necessarily a god like a person in the sky.
Not in the conventional anthropomorphic sense, no. It's more like the singular, undifferentiated source from which everything springs, the ultimate foundation.
Okay. And this ground of being, it isn't just some abstract idea, something distant and theoretical, is it? What's fascinating, and our source really emphasizes this, is its paradoxical nature.
Ah, yes, the paradox.
It's described as both transcendent and immanent. Now, these might sound like big, maybe intimidating words for a general audience, but let's take a second to really unpack them, because they're key.
Absolutely, they're fundamental.
So transcendent means it exists beyond the phenomenal world, right? Beyond our usual grasp of space and time and physical stuff.
Right. It's not limited by anything we can perceive with our five senses or even really fully conceptualize with our minds. It's utterly beyond all categories.
Okay, beyond. Got it.
And yet, paradoxically, in the same breath, it's also immanent.
Immanent meaning?
Meaning it dwells within everything. It's not just some distant, unreachable principle. It's present in the very fabric of reality, deeply infused within every tree, every star, every atom.
And within us.
And crucially, yes, within every single one of us. So this single source of everything is simultaneously beyond everything, and yet deeply, intrinsically part of everything.
Wow. Okay.
This profound paradox is really central to grasping the perennial philosophy. It suggests a reality that's both completely other and yet intimately near, always present.
So if this divine ground is both beyond us and somehow profoundly within us, what does that mean for us as humans?
Well, this is where the perennial philosophy offers a really powerful and, for many people, a deeply surprising take on our nature. Our dual nature, you could say.
Dual nature, how so?
It says we have what it calls a phenomenal ego. This is the you usually think of: your personality, your thoughts, desires, memories, your individual identity, your story.
What makes me separate from you?
Exactly. It's what differentiates you. And this ego, according to the philosophy, is temporary. It's always changing, inherently limited. It's the part of us that experiences separation, that thinks, I am here and the world is out there.
Okay, the everyday self.
But, and this is the crucial, really transformative part, the perennial philosophy asserts that we also possess an eternal self.
An eternal self.
And this isn't just like a bigger or better version of the ego. It's described as a spark of the divine, or in Latin, the scintilla animae.
A spark of the divine.
This spark isn't just connected to the ground of being. It is, in fact, a direct, unmediated fragment of the ground of being itself.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So not just from the ground, but of it.
Exactly. It's an astonishing claim. It implies that at our very core, we are not separate from ultimate reality.
That's incredibly radical when you really sit with it. It's like a single drop of water that somehow contains the essence of the entire ocean.
That's a classic analogy, yes. Or maybe like a tiny fragment of a hologram that, in some mysterious way, contains the information of the whole image.
Right, right.
And the most powerful analogy for this, as our source highlights, comes from the Hindu tradition.
Yeah.
The idea that Atman.
Atman, the individual soul or self.
Yes, the individual soul, the deepest self.
Yeah.
Is ultimately identical with Brahman.
Which is the ultimate reality, the universal spirit in Hinduism.
Precisely. So your deepest, truest self isn't just from the divine, it is the divine. Atman is Brahman.
Wow. I mean, that's a concept that could completely reframe how you understand yourself, your purpose, your connection to everything around you. If my true self is divine, what does that even mean for daily life? Does it mean I'm just constantly missing it?
Well, it suggests that what we often seek outside ourselves, right,
Mhm.
in possessions or status or external validation, it's actually already inherent within us.
Hmm.
The busyness of life, the constant chatter of the ego, the preoccupation with our personal dramas and desires, these are what tend to obscure this deeper truth.
So the noise hides the signal.
In a way, yes. And it changes everything because it means every individual, fundamentally at their core, shares this same divine essence. That shared identity becomes a potential foundation for deep compassion, for interconnectedness.
Okay. So connecting this to the bigger picture then, this dual nature leads directly to the ultimate goal of human life, according to this philosophy.
Exactly.
Mm.
It's not just about accumulating knowledge or achieving worldly success or even just following a specific moral code. Those might be part of the path.
Right.
The fundamental purpose is to realize this latent identity with the divine ground, to wake up to it.
And this realization, it isn't just intellectual belief, is it? Like, I can believe in God or the ground of being or Brahman and still feel totally separate from it in my day-to-day experience.
Indeed, it's much deeper than just belief. It's about a direct, unitive, intuitive knowledge, sometimes called gnosis.
Gnosis. Like knowing, but deeper.
Yes, an experiential knowing, a profound realization where you don't just believe in the ground of being like you believe in a historical fact or scientific theory. You actually become one with it in your conscious experience.
Okay, that's a huge difference.
Think about the difference between reading every single book ever written about swimming and actually jumping in the water, feeling it, moving through it. That feeling, that direct experience, that's the unitive knowledge. The goal is to perceive, to feel your intrinsic non-dual connection to this ultimate reality.
And our source mentions different names for this realization across traditions, right? Like enlightenment in Buddhism.
Or moksha, liberation in Hinduism.
Salvation in some Christian contexts.
Yes, or theosis, becoming divine in Eastern Orthodox Christianity.
Yeah.
They all point towards this same kind of unitive, direct experience of the ground.
Okay. So if this unitive knowledge is the goal, how do we get there? How do we achieve it?
The path. Well, the Perennial Philosophy details the conditions required, and they are remarkably consistent across these different traditions. It's often described using phrases like self-abnegation or dying to self.
Dying to self. That sounds intense, maybe a bit grim.
It can sound that way, yeah, but it's not about literal death or, self-destruction. Not at all.
Okay.
Rather, it means overcoming the dominance of the ego, that temporary, limited, self-centered part of us.
The part that thinks it's separate.
Exactly. Overcoming that through qualities like profound humility, radical detachment from worldly desires and outcomes, and unconditional love or compassion. It's about getting out of your own way, you could say, allowing that deeper eternal self to emerge.
So the ego acts like a veil or static.
That's a great way to put it. The ego, with its constant demands, its interpretations, its fears and desires, act like a veil obscuring the deeper reality.
Yeah.
So dying to self is about thinning that veil.
Okay, not literally dying, but letting go of the ego's grip. Its constant chatter, its grasping, its need to define everything and be in control.
Precisely. And the practical steps outlined usually involve two things working together. First, moral action.
Like ethics.
Yeah, things like charity, compassion, honesty, purity of heart. These cultivate altruism and naturally reduce that egoic self-centeredness.
Makes sense. And the second thing?
Spiritual practice. Things like meditation, contemplation, certain forms of prayer. These are techniques specifically designed to quiet what the philosophy calls the discursive mind.
The discursive mind. The part that's always thinking, analyzing, judging, planning, worrying.
Exactly. The constant inner monologue, the narrative we tell ourselves about ourselves and the world. The mental chatter. By quieting that discursive mind, the aim is to sort of transcend its limitations and open up one's consciousness to that immanent and transcendent ground.
Shifting from thinking about reality to directly experiencing it.
That's the goal. Clearing the noise so you can perceive the underlying reality that's always there. And Huxley, in his incredibly comprehensive work, showed that these core principles weren't just in one or two niche traditions.
Right.
He saw them as the esoteric heart, the inner, deeper meaning of major world traditions. Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Sufism, Christian mysticism.
So what this all means for us today, really, is that Huxley gave us this powerful lens, a kind of universal framework
Yeah.
through which we can understand how these belief systems that seem so different actually share these profound foundational truths. It's about finding the harmony in what looks like chaos.
It offers a kind of meta-understanding, doesn't it? One that unifies rather than divides, focusing on the shared human quest for ultimate meaning.
Okay, so now that we have Huxley's framework, this idea of a universal ground of being and the path to realizing our connection to it, let's see how it actually plays out in some specific mystical traditions.
Yeah, let's get concrete.
Because this is where those profound parallels, those shared insights dressed in different cultural languages really start to shine through.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into two incredibly rich mystical traditions that really exemplify the perennial philosophy in action. First, Kabbalah.
The mystical side of Judaism.
Exactly. And then Christian mysticism, especially looking through the lens of someone like Meister Eckhart.
Okay.
And you'll see how their unique ways of expressing things align beautifully with Huxley's idea of a common spiritual core.
Great. So, first up, the En Sof of Kabbalah, which translates roughly as the infinite source.
That's right. Without end or the infinite. Now, Kabbalah, for those who might not be familiar, is this ancient esoteric tradition within Judaism.
Esoteric meaning.
Hidden.
Or inner.
More like inner or deeper meaning.
Yeah.
It's not just about reading scripture literally. It's about seeking the hidden meanings within the divine, understanding the nature of God and creation through, well, symbolic language and often direct experiential means.
Okay.
And right at the very summit of Kabbalistic thought, like before anything exists, before any manifestation, you find this concept of the En Sof.
En Sof, exactly.
Exactly. And the name itself, without end or the infinite, gives you a pretty strong clue about its nature.
Yeah.
Our source describes it as the absolute ultimate unknowable essence of God. It's beyond all attributes, beyond all names, beyond any description or qualification we could possibly give it.
So totally beyond comprehension.
Utterly. It's sometimes referred to as a divine nothingness. Ayin.
Nothingness, like
Yeah.
empty.
Not empty in the sense of void or lack. It's nothing. Because it contains no specific defined qualities that our finite minds can grasp. Any description would limit it.
Ah, I see. So it's no thingness rather than just nothing.
Precisely. Yet paradoxically, this nothingness holds the infinite potential for all being, all creation. It's the wellspring.
Okay, so how do Kabbalists grapple with something that's simultaneously nothing and the source of everything? That sounds like quite the mental workout.
It requires a profound shift in perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that the ultimate reality isn't a thing alongside other things. It's the no thing that enables all things to be.
Okay.
For Kabbalists, the En Sof is primordial, it's transcendent, truly beyond our grasp at its ultimate nature. Yet it is the absolute origin point.
And this connects directly back to Huxley's ground of being, doesn't it? That ultimate, undifferentiated source.
Directly. It's Kabbalah's articulation of that same core concept. Primordial, transcendent, utterly beyond finite comprehension.
But then, how does this completely transcendent En Sof actually bring the created world into existence if it's so beyond?
That's where the Sephirot come in. The En Sof brings the world into being through what Kabbalists call 10 emanations, or Sephirot.
Emanations, like light shining out.
Exactly like that. Think of the infinite, undiluted light of the En Sof as just too intense, too pure to be directly contained or perceived by creation.
Okay, overwhelming.
So it sort of steps down or filters its infinite light through these 10 Sephirot. These aren't separate gods or anything like that. Think of them more like divine vessels or attributes or stages of manifestation.
Like stages.
They have specific, somewhat comprehensible qualities like wisdom, chokmah, understanding, bina, mercy, cheese, judgment or strength, gevura, and so on.
Okay.
Imagine maybe a series of cosmic lenses or prisms, each one filtering and diffusing this incredibly intense light until it becomes perceptible, until it can form structure and diversity.
Ah, okay. So it's a process of gradual unfolding.
Precisely. It's through this process of emanation, moving from the most subtle down to the most dense, that the infinite transcendent En Sof gradually forms the material world, right down to our physical reality.
This makes so much sense now, because this process perfectly explains that paradox we talked about with Huxley, the transcendent yet immanent God.
How so?
Well, the En Sof itself remains completely transcendent, right, beyond everything.
Yes.
But its creative light, its essence, its presence becomes immanent throughout all of creation through the Sephira. It's literally woven into everything.
Exactly. It's in the most distant galaxy, the smallest atom, and, very importantly, within the human soul itself.
So we're not truly separate from this infinite source, even though it's also beyond us.
According to Kabbalah, no. And because of that profound immanence, the ultimate goal for a Kabbalist is something called devekut.
Devekut? What does that mean?
It literally means cleaving or clinging to God. It's not just about intellectual understanding or following rules. It's a state of profound communion, even union, with the divine.
Union, like becoming one.
That's the aspiration. It isn't just about believing in God. It's an experiential, conscious journey. It's achieved through things like deep prayer, dedicated study of Torah and Kabbalistic texts, intense contemplative practices, and living an ethical life aligned with divine will.
Okay.
It's about aligning one's own consciousness with these divine emanations, the Sephiro, and sort of ascending back towards the source.
So if I'm getting this right, devekut is like a direct experiential journey of consciousness, almost like climbing back up that ladder of the Sephiro, trying to reunite with the divine source we came from.
That's a very good way to think about it, yes.
And that sounds incredibly similar to Huxley's emphasis on unitive gnosis, that direct non-intellectual knowing and the whole idea of transcending the ego to realize that divine spark within.
The connection is very strong. The Kabbalistic journey of devekut is a powerful, specific cultural embodiment of the Perennial Philosophy's call to dissolve that illusion of separation and experience fundamental unity. It's an active engagement with the divine presence permeating reality.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now let's shift gears slightly. Let's look at Christian mysticism.
Right.
Which, again, for many people might seem counterintuitive in a discussion about a non-personal ground of being, because mainstream Christianity often focuses so much on a personal, Trinitarian, God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
That's true for much of mainstream practice and theology. But as our source highlights, the mystical tradition within Christianity, especially through figures like the 13th century German theologian Meister Eckhart,
Yeah, you mentioned him.
offers a profoundly different perspective, one that aligns incredibly closely with the Perennial Philosophy.
How so? What did Eckhart say?
Well, Eckhart makes this truly crucial distinction. It was quite radical for his time, and maybe still is for some. He distinguishes between God.
God. German for God.
Yes, God is the personal God of revelation. The God we pray to, the Trinity, the God described in the Bible, the God involved in history.
Okay, the familiar concept of God for many Christians.
Right, but then Eckhart distinguishes God from the Godhead, the Godhead.
The Godhead. Okay, what's it like? The beyond God.
In a sense, yes. Or perhaps more accurately, prior to God as personality or Trinity. Eckhart describes the Godhead as the simple ground, the still desert, a silent, undifferentiated abyss of being.
A still desert, an abyss, that sounds very abstract, like the En Sof.
Very much so. It's a profound silence, a void of specific attributes, yet it is the ultimate source from which even the Trinity itself proceeds or emerges. It's beyond all names, all forms, all concepts, all distinctions. Pure potentiality. Absolute unity.
Wow. So this concept, the Godhead, it's functionally identical to Huxley's ground of being and the Kabbalistic En Sof.
Functionally, yes. It represents that ultimate non-personal divine reality that underpins everything before any manifestation or differentiation occurs.
That's a really powerful idea, especially coming from within the Christian tradition itself. It sort of recontextualizes the whole notion of God. So what about us? What did Eckhart say about our connection to this fundamental Godhead?
Well, this is where it gets truly fascinating and deeply resonant with the Perennial Philosophy. Eckhart taught that within every human soul, there exists what he called a spark, a Funklein.
Funklein, little spark, like the scintilla anime.
Exactly the same idea. And he described this spark as uncreated and uncreatable.
Uncreated, meaning it wasn't made, it's eternal.
Yes, it's not something made in time, it's eternal. And crucially, it is in fact one with the Godhead itself.
One with it, not just connected to it.
Not just connected, it is it. It is the divine. This is the very definition of divine immanence within the human being, directly paralleling that Hindu idea of Atman, being identical to Brahman.
And Eckhart really drove this point home, didn't he? There's that famous, incredibly radical quote our source mentions.
Yes. The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a direct assertion of non-duality, isn't it? It blows away the idea of a separate observer looking at God.
Completely. It means the deepest part of yourself, that Phil Klein, is ultimate reality. You're not just observing God from a distance. You are somehow participating in God's own perception, God's own being. It's a collapse of the subject-object distinction right there.
It's a profound declaration that the separation we normally perceive between ourselves and the divine is fundamentally an illusion.
Exactly. And just like with Huxley and Kabbalah, Eckhart outlined a specific spiritual path to realize this truth directly.
Okay, what did his path involve?
It involves concepts like detachment, Abgeschiedenheit, which means emptying oneself of attachment to all created things, all outcomes, all desires.
Detachment, okay.
And also letting go, Gelassenheit,
Uh-huh.
a kind of yielding to the divine will, a surrender of the striving ego.
So it's a process of emptying the self, letting go of the ego, desires, even our own ideas and concepts about God. That sounds incredibly difficult, especially today when we're constantly encouraged to acquire and define ourselves.
It is indeed a challenging path. But the idea is, by emptying the self of ego, of preferences, even of the mental images and concepts we hold about God, the got one can potentially break through.
Break through God.
Break through the limited personal concept of God, got, to directly experience the Gothite, the ultimate, impersonal ground.
Wow.
This is precisely Eckhart's version of that dying to self, that Huxley identified as the universal prerequisite for enlightenment or unitive knowledge.
So it's a journey that moves beyond just having a relationship with a personal God
Yes.
to achieving a unitive realization of the impersonal, all-encompassing ground of being. It's about becoming, in some sense, rather than just believing or relating to something external.
Beautifully put. It really demonstrates how, despite using vastly different vocabularies, coming from different cultural contexts, and even have different takes on personal versus impersonal divinity,
Yeah.
these mystical traditions are describing a remarkably similar deep reality and a remarkably similar transformative path to apprehending it.
It really underscores the power of that perennial philosophy idea to reveal these hidden connections, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Okay, so far we've journeyed through ancient wisdom, profound mystical traditions. We've found this common ground in Huxley's Perennial Philosophy. We've seen how Kabbalah's En Sof and Christian mysticism's Godhead point towards this unified, ultimate reality. Now, prepare yourselves because this might be the most surprising connection we make today. We're going to leap right into the realm of modern physics,
The big leap.
specifically quantum field theory. And we're going to see how it offers, well, not proof, definitely not proof, but a startlingly powerful modern metaphor for these ancient mystical intuitions.
And right here, we need to be incredibly precise with our language.
Yeah.
It is absolutely vital that we emphasize we are not claiming science somehow proves mysticism,
Right, not at all.
or that mysticism validates science in some way. The methodologies are fundamentally different. Science is empirical, mathematical. It relies on observation, repeatable experiments, falsifiable hypotheses.
Testable predictions.
Exactly. Mysticism, on the other hand, is experiential, intuitive. It relies on inner states of consciousness, contemplation, direct insight, subjective experience in a way.
Very different approaches.
Totally different. So what we're doing is pointing out conceptual parallels. Just noticing how certain descriptions emerging from modern physics resonate, sometimes quite deeply, with ideas expressed by mystics for millennia.
Okay, resonance, parallels, not proof.
Exactly. Think of it like two different languages, forged in vastly different contexts, maybe describing something remarkably similar about reality, but using entirely different tools and vocabularies.
Got it. That's a really important nuance to hold on to. Okay, with that crucial disclaimer firmly in place, let's talk about maybe the biggest shift in how we understand reality over the last century or so.
Yeah.
The move from the classical Newtonian view of solid particles.
Right, the little billiard balls.
Yeah, the tiny, solid, distinct bits of stuff, to the quantum view of fields. In classical physics, which is kind of how we intuitively grasp the world, we picture the universe as made of these fundamental separate particles.
Everything was fundamentally separate, located in space and time.
But quantum field theory, QFT, has just profoundly dismantled that intuitive picture, hasn't it?
It really has. QFT posits that the most fundamental reality isn't these separate individual particles at all. Instead, it's invisible, interpenetrating, omnipresent fields.
Fields, like magnetic fields.
Exactly like that, but more fundamental. Think of the electromagnetic field, which gives rise to light and radio waves, or the electron field, from which electrons emerge, or the Higgs field, which interacts with particles to give them mass. These aren't just empty space. They are the true underlying substance of reality, according to QFT.
Okay, so the fields are the real stuff.
In this view, yes.
Yep.
Particles themselves are no longer considered the fundamental building blocks.
So if the fields are the fundamental reality, what are the particles we actually observe, like an electron or a photon of light? We think of those as discrete things.
Well, what we call particles are, in the language of QFT, merely localized excitations or vibrations in these underlying fields.
Excitations, vibrations.
Yeah. Imagine a vast, calm ocean. That's the field.
Okay.
A wave that arises on that ocean.
Hmm.
That's like a particle. There's just a temporary disturbance, a ripple of energy on the surface of that underlying ocean.
Ah.
The wave isn't truly a separate, independent thing from the ocean. It's a manifestation of the ocean. The ocean itself is the fundamental reality. The waves are just temporary forms that appear upon it and disappear back into it.
So the solid matter we perceive around us is more like these ripples or vibrations in a deeper invisible field.
That's the picture QFT paints. Yes.
Okay, now this is where that striking analogy comes in, isn't it? The quantum field itself, this invisible, unified substrate pervading all of space-time.
It sounds an awful lot like Huxley's ground of being.
The parallel is certainly suggestive, isn't it? An invisible, unified background from which everything arises.
Yeah. So the material world of separate objects, those particles we observe, the chair I'm sitting on, the microphone, it's actually just a temporary manifestation, a ripple arising from and sustained by this single underlying reality, the field. That's the implication.
I mean, that's a huge aha moment for many people, I think, because it completely flips our intuitive understanding of what's fundamental. We usually think the particles are real and the space between them is empty.
Right. QFT suggests, in a way, the opposite. The space, the field, is the fundamental reality, and the particles are secondary phenomena.
It shifts the focus from the things to the underlying stuff, the dynamic substratum from which things emerge.
Exactly. It proposes that behind the apparent multiplicity and separateness of the world, there's a profound unity at a deeper level.
And speaking of things arising, this brings us to potentiality and manifestation in quantum mechanics, right? Specifically, the quantum vacuum.
Ah, yes, the vacuum.
When we hear vacuum, we usually think of empty space, like truly empty. Nothing there, a void.
That's the classical idea of a vacuum.
But the quantum vacuum isn't empty at all, is it?
Absolutely not, according to QFT. It's described as a seething sea of potentiality.
A seething sea. Wow.
Yeah. Almost like a cosmic ocean that might look calm on the surface but is actually teeming with invisible fleeting activity.
Mm-hmm.
These virtual particles are constantly flickering in and out of existence.
Virtual particles.
Yeah, they appear and disappear almost instantaneously, too fast for us to perceive or measure directly, but their effects are real and measurable. They represent the inherent energy and potentiality of the vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
This zero-point energy field is seen as a state of pure, boundless potential, a kind of cosmic soup
Okay.
from which manifest reality, the observable particles and forces we know, can emerge when sufficient energy is introduced.
This resonates incredibly powerfully with those mystical concepts we talked about earlier.
That was so.
The Kabbalistic En Sof, right? Described as that divine nothingness that holds the potential for all being. Or Eckhart's Goethite, the still desert that's somehow the source of everything. This abstract scientific concept of the quantum vacuum. This state of pure potential from which reality emerges. It just mirrors that ancient mystical insight. That something profoundly potent can arise from what appears to be nothing or no thing.
The language is different, the methods are different, but the underlying concept of a fertile emptiness, a potential-filled void being the source of manifestation, the parallel is striking.
It really suggests a profound unity at the deepest level, where even nothing isn't truly empty, but teeming with possibility.
It does. And this idea of unity and interconnectedness brings us neatly to another really fascinating and frankly weird quantum concept, quantum entanglement.
Entanglement. This is the really strange one, right?
It's certainly one of the strangest and most counterintuitive aspects of quantum mechanics. This is where two particles, maybe an electron and a positron created together, or two photons emitted from the same atom, become linked.
Linked out.
Linked in such a way that they share the same quantum state, the same fate, you could say, no matter how far apart they travel.
No matter how far Even late years.
even light years apart, theoretically.
Yeah.
If you measure a property of one entangled particle, like its spin direction, you instantly know the corresponding property of the other one. Instantly. Faster than light could travel between them.
Okay, that's just wild. It completely defies our classical understanding of space and separation. It feels like magic.
Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. It seems to violate our intuitions about locality, the idea that an object is only directly influenced by its immediate surroundings.
So, what's the implication of entanglement for how we understand reality?
Well, the profound implication is that these two entangled particles aren't really separate entities in the way we usually think of things being separate. At some deeper level, they remain parts of a single, indivisible system. They act as if they are still fundamentally connected, even across vast distances. It suggests a fundamental unity, a non-locality, that transcends our everyday experience of spatial separation.
It really pushes us to question whether separation is the ultimate reality at all, doesn't it?
It certainly challenges that assumption.
And this sounds incredibly similar to that core mystical insight of non-duality we keep coming back to.
How so?
That the perception of separation, whether it's between individual objects or between ourselves and the world or ourselves and the divine, is ultimately an illusion. The mystical realization that all is one at the deepest level, that everything is interconnected and ultimately originates from a single source. It finds the startling, almost poetic echo in the scientific description of non-locality and fundamental unity found in entanglement.
Precisely. Again, we have to stress, the methodologies are undeniably different. Physics uses empirical observation, complex mathematics. Mysticism uses experiential, intuitive insight.
Right. Different tools, different languages.
But the descriptions they arrive at regarding fundamental unity and interconnectedness can sound remarkably similar. Quantum field theory provides, perhaps, a new language from the realm of science, a modern framework that describes a reality where the manifest world of multiplicity arises from a unified, invisible, and deeply interconnected ground of potentiality.
It's not about proving faith with science or vice versa.
Not at all. It's more about discovering a resonance, maybe, that inspires a sense of wonder, seeing how different human endeavors might be converging on similar insights.
Yeah, it's like seeing how two completely different modes of inquiry, one looking outward into the cosmos with telescopes and particle accelerators, the other looking inward at consciousness through centuries of contemplative practice, can arrive at surprisingly congruent ideas about the fundamental nature of reality.
It is truly remarkable, almost as if humanity, through very different paths, is slowly, maybe tentatively, converging on the same profound truths about existence.
So, where does this leave us? What does this all mean for us, right here, right now? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We certainly have. It's been quite a journey.
From the philosophical insights of Aldous Huxley, who gave us that incredible map, the Perennial Philosophy.
Right, that invaluable framework for understanding the convergent truths, the highest common factor, hidden within the world's diverse spiritual traditions, showing that underlying blueprint for spiritual experience shared across humanity.
Yeah. And then we saw that framework come alive. We looked at the Kabbalists' concept of the En Sof, that infinite, unknowable source, that divine nothingness that's paradoxically the origin of all being.
And we explored Meister Eckhart's radical distinction in Christian mysticism between the personal God, Gott, and that undifferentiated ultimate Godhead, the Gottheit.
And finding within both traditions that profound idea of a divine spark within us, the eternal self, the scintilla anime, the Funklein, our innermost identity being one with the ultimate ground.
And the unifying quest becomes clear, doesn't it? Whether it's the Kabbalist path toward Devakut, that cleaving to the En Sof,
or the Christian mystic's path of detachment, Abgeschiedenheit, aiming to break through to the Godhead.
they seem to be different cultural expressions of what is really the same fundamental human project.
Which is?
Realizing the limited nature of the ego, letting go of that illusion of separation, and directly experiencing that unitive divine ground of being, experiencing genuine wholeness and interconnectedness.
And then, that truly surprising modern echo we just discussed, quantum field theory.
Yeah, the physics connection.
Seeing how QFT, with its description of fundamental fields as the underlying reality and particles as just excitations, how it offers this powerful modern metaphor for that unified ground of being.
And the quantum vacuum, not empty, but that seething sea of potentiality.
Right. And quantum entanglement, demonstrating that profound, non-local, non-dual interconnectedness across space. It really does suggest that maybe, just maybe, humanity's most advanced scientific models and its most profound spiritual intuitions are, in their own distinct ways, pointing towards the same ineffable reality at the heart of everything.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
To consider that across different ages, through entirely different methods of inquiry, human beings might be arriving at remarkably similar understandings of the universe's deepest nature.
It really compels you to think about the universe differently, not just as a collection of separate bits and pieces.
No, but maybe as a dynamic, interconnected whole.
Yeah.
A single living tapestry, perhaps.
So we'll leave you, our listener, with this final provocative thought to ponder. Whether we approach it through contemplative prayer or intricate esoteric symbolism, or through the incredibly complex mathematics and experimental observation of quantum fields, the ultimate quest seems to remain strangely the same. It appears to be the quest to part the veil of phenomenal, everyday existence, the world of apparent separation, and to apprehend, maybe even experience, that single unifying source, the ground from which all things arise and to which, perhaps, all things ultimately return.
So the question becomes,
What does this deep dive, this exploration of converging ideas, mean for your understanding of reality? How might thinking about this potential underlying unity change the way you see the world around you, and indeed how you see yourself within it? Something to think about.